We have joining us on the phone lines now Colonel Festus Abuaji. He's a security analyst, and we want to pick his thoughts on the land closure of land borders. A night to election day. Pick his thoughts generally on this particular one. Sir, thank you for joining us. It's election day. First of all, what are your impressions of the decision, the directive from the Interior Minister to close land borders and nights to election day?
Well, first of all, let me follow protocol and thank you, Caleb, and my good friend Richard. I'm not sure whether we've met before, but I think we've interacted a couple of times previously. Now, I was looking for a rational explanation as to why the borders had to be closed. And I don't think from the statement that I've seen, I found very cogent reasons why the borders should be closed. I'm of this view because, one, everybody who is voting today would have registered prior to today. Their names must be on the Ghana voter register or registers. Otherwise, whether they fly in from heaven or not, they are not going to be able to vote. So, from that angle, the normal routine movement of people, goods, and services within the ECOWAS region, the relevant protocol must be in place. This is a violation of that ECOWAS protocol, which did not say that on the eve of elections, a member state should close its borders and restrict movement in and out of their jurisdictions. Secondly, if it is because of, let's say, importation of arms, ammunition, and explosives, first, there are enough of these illegal materials. They're already there. And they are not the ones coming in from last night or today that, would materially affect the integrity of the elections. What is required, from my perspective, is that a lot of election security, and indeed any security for that matter, must be intelligence heavy. So all that we need to do as a state is to deploy all the resources that we have, the full range, not only on the borders, but within our territories and indeed outside, and allow this free movement of people, goods, and services. This is not the first time. In previous occasions, we've been given different reasons. 2020, it was this hoax of Western Togoland coming to invade Ghana. And even that, sometimes they are targeted. Is the voter borders or voter region borders in some parts of Bono or wherever it is. It does not go well for us. My interpretation is that any country that is edgy for whatever reason about its border security on occasions like this is not a mature democracy. It's not a stable country. Or, if you like, is purposely for regime security or for some forms of, exploiting the situation in order to have an advantage over others.
Now, the statement of the Interior Ministry says that the purpose behind the temporary closure of all land borders are part of measures to ensure the integrity of the December 7 general elections. Is this not fair enough that, people may be barged into the country who may not be voters, may have Ghana cards, and, may find a way of deciding for us who the next president and members of parliament should be. So therefore, in order to prevent that, let us shut our borders, even if it means that economically we will pay the price for some trade activities. Let's shut the borders, ensure the integrity of the electoral outcome.
No, I wouldn't agree with him, and I wouldn't agree with the government. Those reasons that you have alluded or extrapolated from the reason why we need to ensure the integrity of our electoral process are the very reasons why, before now, indeed, throughout all the time since the last election, we should have invested in the right intelligence resources to be able to protect the territorial integrity and sovereignty of the state. So I've cited the example elsewhere that since yesterday, let's take the timeline of yesterday into today, a lot of Ghanaians have been moving across the country in order to go to their constituencies where they might have registered to cast their votes. We are not obliged as citizens to remain in Ghana. There are people who, for a number of reasons, go in and out of the country by land and through our land borders. There are these onion traders from Niger, Burkina, wherever they have gone, meat traders, tomato traders, and so on. If they so found themselves on the other side of our borders, having planned to come into the country today or yesterday, and then the state or the government says, I've closed the borders. I don't agree. Because it's not only in Ghana that we have elections. In other parts of Africa and the world, elections go on. And we don't hear about borders being closed. You see, if we had been told that there is a threat from terrorism, specific or general, from our northern border or western border or eastern border, that is credible enough. I mean, as far as the statement would go. But this generalized explanation that to keep the integrity of the elections, we must close the borders. I don't think we should buy it. We must work harder to ensure that, and I've cited the ECOWAS protocol, that at all times we respect the protocols that we have become parties to, signatory parties, and allow people to move in and out.
And Kenneth,
look, for all we know, for all we know, I've cited the example of those who trade across our borders. Some of them might have planned to get into the country yesterday. Because as of yesterday, or before yesterday, there was no such directive. Now, for no fault of theirs, they find themselves on the other side of the border because somebody says that to keep the integrity. The integrity of the elections must start from the inside here. Those political actors who have soldiers in their vehicles and in their houses, the allegations about groups of soldiers in some guest houses and hotels and so on and so forth. The Yendi ballot paper, ballot bag from which 1,200 presidential ballot papers have been stolen. These are the kinds of, incidents or infractions or whatever that affect the integrity of the election. We are not doing much about that. EC came after this revelation to give the first press release. She was asked specifically about this incident. Two of them decided not to answer the question. So what is more than undermining the integrity of the election than 1,200 ballot papers going missing and nobody knowing who took them and where they are taking them and how they're going to find themselves into some of these ballot boxes? We must act in a mature manner. That's all I'm trying to suggest. This idea, for instance, when you finish voting, go home. When no law in Ghana says that when you finish voting, you must go home. Let's put in place measures to ensure that even if all the 700 voters decide to remain at a ballot station, there are mechanisms for them to be peaceful and remain peaceful, but observe, because their eyes and ears add a layer of security. And we don't have what we had 4 years ago when we lost 8 lives. And the state of Ghana says that it doesn't know who did them because it happened in the dark.
Very important.
You agree with my line of argument.
I get you, Colonel. Now, this particular fiat from the minister indicates that it's supposed to take immediate effect, and it ends at 6 p.m. tomorrow, which is 8th December 2024. I mean, is there any remedy to change this before then? Because then people might just be stranded out there. Hello, Colonel. What are the remedies available?
I can hear you now.
Yes, I'm asking what. Thank you. I'm asking what remedies can be available for persons who may be caught up out there who wants to come in before the deadline of this particular executive fiat.
Unfortunately, I think our common understanding will be that nobody is coming in and nobody is going out until after the elections, maybe 5 p.m. if you like, or thereabout, or maybe tomorrow. Look, I was caught outside Ghana pre-COVID. I was lucky that I arrived in Kenya. Ghana had announced that it was going to close the borders, and there was a large flight from Nairobi to Accra. Otherwise, I would have been stranded in Nairobi. Of course, at the time, I had money to have lived in Nairobi for as long as possible. But imagine the number of Ghanaians and other persons coming into Ghana who, or even in Ghana, wanting to leave, who cannot leave and who cannot come in because of this kind of directive, and who don't have the funds to sustain themselves. Of course, when I arrived on that occasion, I was bundled straight away to Mensvik Hotel because Ghana was closing the borders because of COVID. I'm trying to suggest that our democracy must mature, our politics must mature. We don't need to, apply some of these rules and regulations, off the cuff, as South Africans will say, thumbsuck policies, which look nice, but which don't have substantive basis. I mean, reasonable basis for closing borders. Those people we must sympathize with. They have no options. Maybe those who are legally minded, like Richard Sky, if they think that their rights are being violated, when they come in, probably could go to the courts. And then it remains to be seen whether the court would grant them the respective reliefs that they might look for. But trust me, in principle, a lot of Ghanaians are going to suffer because of this border closure.
Right. Now, finally, before I let you go, we've seen some arrests that have been conducted. For example, in Okankwe South, one person has been arrested for carrying a pistol. We understand from the Ghana Police Service also that an EC official has been picked up, arrested at Kintampo South in the Bono East region, because in his case, he's issued about 15 ballot papers to voters, and that omitted the first presidential candidate at the Pimsika Bayere polling station. And a number of these, you've been monitoring coverage so far. We've seen pockets of tensions and misunderstandings and chaos here and there. What would you say, what are your views on this so far, the response of the security, and what can be done? What would you say to voters and everyone else involved in this electoral process so that we would not have what we saw the other time?
Well, on this question, the very idea that the integrity of our electoral process depends on a number of arrangements, because the laws, as I've heard Sky explain a number of times, on your media channels. We have been doing arrests, right? It's not the first time. But the worrisome pattern or the worrisome subculture as far as the rule of law and the application of the law is concerned is that we do not follow up on those who violate our laws. Now, let us cite, for instance, the Kwadasu MP, Dr. Kingsley Nyako, during the Ejisru by-elections, who was seen dipping his hand into his back pocket, right back pocket, coming out with an envelope allegedly, purportedly containing money, putting it on the table of the officials. We were told that he had been invited. Till today, people will say, Ankosiaga. 3 days ago, Lydia Hassan, caught in the open, caught on camera, distributing food and not having the integrity, the honor to acknowledge that, oh, Ghanaians have done something wrong. She was vehemently denying, unbeknownst to her, that there was video evidence. What has happened to Lydia Alassane? This morning I've heard another MP assuming the story is true, Ablekuma Esla Owusu, that she was also given food, assuming that it is true. Later on, I saw her granting an interview. What happens to her? So it is this non-application of the law, consistently, or sometimes selectively. So if these people have now been allegedly arrested, if they happen to be MPP, because MPP is still in government, nothing is going to happen. So we are living in a culture of impunity, because nobody who violates the law is ever punished. And therefore, nobody fears violating the law. Because those who violate the laws have some big stones that they are standing on. So I'm not encouraged. If we wake up tomorrow and we see them before court, including Lydia Alassane, then you and I will be encouraged that Ghana has turned the corner. And that now we are not a respecter of persons. And that Richard does something and Caleb does the same thing. Both of them will appear before the law courts. But currently, as we speak, the laws are not working in Ghana. And we can cite so many examples, so many violations of the law, which have not gone anywhere.
Ken, I'd like to thank you for your time and the perspective you shared with us.
Too,
appreciate you so much. Thank you.